All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. I think the chamber events have been great. Thank you to the leadership of Karen Trindell and team. The chamber is really doing a lot of good work in the community, and it's an honor to be a part of it. For those who don't know me, my name is Davin Sessa. I'm a local entrepreneur. My main business is financial planning, which I've been doing for the past 15 years. Not 30 yet, but I'm on my way. All right. Outside of doing financial planning, I also have been a lifelong practitioner of martial arts, and I actually opened up a little school with a friend of mine in Somers. This summer we celebrated 10 years. So, what's actually really cool about that is, one, I like it, it's fun, it's kind of like therapy to me, that's why it exists. The kids think it's about them, it's really about me. But also, developing that has also helped me relate a lot more closely to my business owner and entrepreneur clients. For the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk more about money, wealth, how to grow it, and how to protect it. And there's some people in here who say, money, I hate the topic of money, and some people say, I love the topic of money. But the reality is it doesn't matter if you like it or don't like it, because you have to deal with it, right? It's just part of how we operate life. For the record, financial planning is, when I look at it as the wealth journey that you're on is similar to the health journey that you're on, right? And I believe that they're both never-ending journeys, right? You don't wake up one day and you say like, oh, I followed the Stacy's diet plan for the past month, like, I'm healthy now, I'm done. Like, no, you're not done. It's a never-ending journey, and you're not done till you're done. And the same thing happens in your wealth journey, right? You have to deal with money your entire life, and you're not done till, again, you're done. So for the record, financial planning is a very large landscape. We have a few different professional seats here today. I'm not an accountant, right? Totally different.
And I'm not a financial planner.
Totally different areas, but both related to helping people with their dollars and their wealth. I do investment planning, and I do investment planning and retirement planning, as well as insurance planning and protection planning. Today, the focus is going to be a little bit more on the protection on the insurance side, and so I hope that you find some value in that. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yes. Thank you.
See something healthy there.
Pretty healthy, right? So most people think that the more money you make, the better off you'll be. Do we agree with that? Yes?
Yes.
I got a couple nods. More money, more problems. Also a different side of that, right? So I don't necessarily agree with the more money you make, the better off you'll be. And I think I'm getting a little smile from our CPA here, right? Right? More taxes. Or you. Right? I've seen people who make what I would call significant amounts of income, and yet they still have some financial difficulties. And I've seen people who make more modest incomes, and yet they seem to be very peaceful and happy. The reality is it doesn't matter how much money you make. What matters is how much money you keep. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs in here. Have we heard of the name Robert Kiyosaki? You have to, because real estate guy. If you haven't heard of him, he's a world-renowned real estate guru, entrepreneur. I love his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you haven't read it, go get it. If you don't have it, email me and I'll send it to you. He states, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. Okay? I believe my entire practice revolves around that statement. I'm going to read it one more time because it's that important. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. And though not everybody's goal is to just pass on wealth to the next generation, I think it's most people's goal. I think most people want to work, have a healthy income, enjoy life, and then pass some on to their next generation, and hopefully that continues down the line, and you create an incredible family legacy and family tree. Today we're going to talk about, I'm going to focus right now on just an economic tool that most of us have probably heard of, but probably don't use very efficiently, and the tool is life insurance, right? We've probably all heard of that. It's one of the most overlooked and underutilized tools in financial planning. If you have a family or business, I'd say it's a critical conversation. If you don't have a family or business, I still believe it's a very important conversation to have in mind. Most people think that life insurance is just about what does somebody else get if I die? And while it may be important if you have a family or business for that to take effect, it's not too fun to think about that, right? So the question is today, did you know that life insurance also has living benefits? Meaning you could actually use it while you're alive. Okay? So there's a lot of opinions out there about life insurance. I don't actually care about anybody's opinion. I care about the facts, right? And the facts are that life insurance is a real tool, and it's one of the most powerful economic tools in financial planning. According to a very famous CPA, Ed Slott, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he states that the tax exemption on life insurance is the single biggest benefit in the tax code. That's a pretty bold statement because most CPAs that I know are pretty black and white, right? And pretty blunt. So that's a pretty bold statement coming from a CPA. When I look at life insurance, I actually look at it as if I'm looking at real estate. So do we agree that there's basically two ways to kind of have real estate? You either rent it or you own it?
Yes.
Right? So the same thing, let me ask you a question. What do we think the wealthier people tend to do? Do they rent it or do they own it? They typically tend to own it. Why?
Investments and investments.
It grows.
It's an investment, it grows, right? They don't want to put money without building value, right? If you put money towards rent, which might be the right move, right? Because that's what you can afford, and there's nothing wrong. If you rent or own, it doesn't make you a good person or a bad person, right? It's just you play the hand that you're dealt. So if you're renting, that's fine, but you're not going to build value in that over time. And people of more wealth, they tend to want to own things that they're going to build value for themselves and for their family. And so with life insurance, it's actually really the same thing. You can rent or you can own. Most people will probably start out renting. And again, nothing wrong with that. That could be the right move. But what I've found in my experience is that the wealthier folks tend to transition to an ownership style kind of sooner than later. So the renting type is called term insurance. You guys have maybe heard of that. The way that it works is you select a time period up front when you apply for the policy, right? So you typically choose between 10 and 30 years. Hey, you're in my line of You typically choose between 10 and 30 years. You're going to put money towards a policy to secure a benefit for your family. People think about this once they get married, once they have their first kid, and they say, hey, give me the cheapest thing I could find to protect my family. Eventually, what will happen is, if you get what you want, which is to live a long, healthy life, you will outlive the policy. And so all the money that you put towards that over the 20, 30 years or whatever, has kind of been like money down the drain. Right? And the bigger kicker is not just the money that you put towards the policy is down the drain, but the benefit that you had for your family is also going to disappear. Right? So typically when people get insurance outside of work, which I encourage everybody to have, outside of your work benefits, typically the benefit is a couple $100,000 or maybe a couple $1 million. And one day, if that disappears, that's normally not a good financial day, right? Like I had $1 million check and now it's canceled. Not a really good financial day. But could have been the right move for a time period. There's also owning life insurance. And that comes in the form of permanent life insurance. Now there's a lot of different flavors of permanent life insurance out there. The most permanent is whole life insurance. And the reason it's most permanent is because it has the most guarantees. Okay? Let me see. Okay, so it's related to life insurance and real estate are related because when you own real estate and you put down a down payment, that kind of secures your property value there, right, in your name. And now you're going to pay your mortgage and build equity inside of that home or property. And equity is the money that you have access to if you ever need it. And the same thing happens in whole life insurance. When you put down your first contribution, you secure the benefit value, right? Which could be a couple $100,000, a couple million, right? You've secured that, and then there's an equity portion inside of the policy that's called cash value that you can use for anything you ever want, right? You don't need a reason to use it. You can use it at any point in time. And as we said before, there are tax benefits according to the CPA. He says, what did I say before? It's the biggest loophole in the tax code. Okay. So let me give you 4 quick points, and then I'll be out of here. So, inside whole life insurance, there's equity that's growing called cash value. It's known as an uncorrelated asset. Okay, the reason it's called uncorrelated is because the performance doesn't get tied to how the market does. Even if the market's tanking, your insurance value will actually continue to grow. And we've experienced this a few times in the past, 4 or 5 years, right? When the pandemic hit and the market crashed, people were very nervous. I spent probably 6 straight months calling clients to simply check on their sanity and then also remind them that if they had whole life insurance, the value that they had was continuing to grow. And though they probably already knew that, it gave them nice reassurance, and they did thank me for the reminder, because everything else they saw in the news when they opened up their IRAs, 401ks, they saw all of those things tanking at the time, right? So it's nice to know that you have guarantees of growth. Every month, every time you contribute, it's always going to grow. It actually can't even go down no matter what happens. So that's a pretty big kicker. As it relates to taxes, I mentioned life insurance is the biggest benefit in the tax code, and unlike 401ks or IRAs where you're deferring taxes today, you're gonna pay taxes on every dollar that you distribute later on. Life insurance, that's not the case. The money inside of your plan, the cash value actually grows, tax deferred, but you could still access it tax free. And then also your benefit is gonna be passed on tax free. So when you talk about legacy planning, there is no better way to pass on money than through life insurance. It's like pennies on the dollar, because that's money getting passed off and nobody has to worry about taxes. Taxes are the biggest wealth eroding factor that exists, and if you haven't realized that, just talk to Joanna, she'll help you. Okay, we live in New York. Do we live in a litigious society? Do people like sue ever? Right? Anyone ever been sued? All right, people sue all the time, right? If you got a little fender bender, it's probably a lawsuit. If you looked at someone the wrong way, there could be a lawsuit, right? Welcome to New York. And so protection upon your money and your wealth is very important. And did you know that if you have money growing inside of your whole life insurance plan and you're sued in the state of New York, they cannot go after it because it's protected against creditors. Big deal. I don't care how much money someone has, I care how much they can keep and utilize. Okay. One more thing I'll give you, and then I'll wrap. This one is very unique to money that grows in a life insurance plan. So let's relate it to real estate. You buy real estate, you're paying your mortgage. Let's say you're doing a good job, 10 years in, awesome, and then whatever happens, you get sick, injured, and you can't work at your job for a season, whether it's a year or 2. Does the mortgage company call you up and say, hey, listen, you've been doing such a great job paying your mortgage. We heard you got hurt. We know you're a nice guy. You know what? We're going to cover your mortgage. Don't worry about it. Do they do that?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely not, right? Like, it's not happening, right? You have to pay your mortgage or you're going to lose your own problem in due time. With life insurance, money that's growing in there and your contributions, if you get sick or injured and you qualified with your health up front, the way that we design our plans is there's a contingency plan that's built in where if you're sick or injured, the money will actually become automatically funded for you. Right? So I'm paying my contributions, I'm sick or injured, I'm not working probably, I'm not creating a healthy income at that particular point in time, it's tough, and yet the insurance company is gonna fund my plan for me. It's gonna stay growing as if I was doing it.
From the cash value or from the...
They're gonna fund my whole plan exactly as I was funding it. So however much money you're putting in towards it, they're gonna put it down. While I'm out. It has to be verified by a doctor, of course, right? Because they're not stupid. But as long as you're verified by a doctor, they're gonna fund your plan automatically for you. Then, When you're better, you pick up the contributions again. You don't owe anything back. They did it on your behalf. And that doesn't exist in any other financial vehicle. Am I accurate? You know anybody know another one? I haven't
I
found one.
didn't even know
and I've looked.
that they did that.
All right, good. So somebody learned something. Right? So my goal today was to simply educate and help you learn something. I hope you did. I hope you have a little bit of better understanding on how life insurance is a tool, not just a product, right? It doesn't matter if I always say, like I'm a sports fan, right? So if I gave somebody, Derek Jeter's baseball bat, are they going to play baseball like Derek Jeter? Like, probably not, right? If I gave Derek Jeter your bat in the garage, he's probably still going to play at a high level. Why? Because he understands the lessons and he knows how to use the tool. You have to know how to use the tool to be effective. And so I hope that you learned a little bit about life insurance planning today, growing wealth, protecting wealth. Again, if you don't have a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad, email me and I will send it to you. It's a really good book for all entrepreneurs. Thank you for your time today, and I have some